since a few people have asked, what do I mean by the longer it takes to start, the greater the intensity. So down here is my timeline, obviously, till 2032, 2025, and over here is the intensity scale, right? Okay, so if things start escalating, say in 2025, so relatively quick, it's almost 2023. We're on the tail end of 2022. Let's just say things really start to pick up by 2025. Okay, and we're just going to put our makeshift point at the 5 billion part. All right. So if it's going to start in 2025, it's going to be a slow, steady increase until we have 5 billion, people gone, right? But if it starts at 2030, like you can see, in order to reach there, it's just a straight line up in intensity, and that's a relatively short amount of time. This is just on a relative time scale. We don't know exactly when it's going to start or anything like that. But in order to reach it, it has to escalate very, very rapidly. And, the reason why I'm using the billions of numbers is because of the simple fact that, our food supply, our food supply, the amount of crops we are growing is decreasing. Some crops in the past couple of years have completely failed. They're almost at zero when you look at 5 or 10 years ago. Like, they're in the freaking millions of tons being produced every year. And then you have different places like say Sacramento Valley or Bakersfield that used to be some of the best producers of certain crops. And now nothing. A lot of people don't know is, years ago, a couple decades ago, California was the leading producer of rice. The whole Sacramento Valley was. And it produced so much rice because it was so fertile that we were even shipping rice to China. Yeah, and you can go and look it up. It's crazy how much rice just that one area was producing. But now when you go through there, most of those crop fields have been paved over with shopping malls and suburban areas and things like that. And also some of them are just bare dirt. Like Bakersfield, there's large chunks of that whole area that the nutrients are so depleted from the soil that not even grass can grow in them. It's just a giant dust bowl. And so, we're with producing less and less food, but our population is ever increasing. We're past the tipping point as far as I'm concerned. And, there is going to be a rapid decrease in the human population. There's going to have to be, unless some miracle happens, which a lot of people are holding out on. They want a miracle to happen, which, I can't really blame them because it's a lot of people that are going to perish during a mass famine like that. But when you got so much food being desired by so many people, there's going to be a large increase in violence. And so that's part of what this timeline shows is that, the longer it waits, if it starts here compared to here, the human population is just going to keep increasing. Okay. Not only that, the crop production from here to here is going to be decreasing. And so in order to make up for that loss, the more people are going to have to die, not from illnesses, not from starvation. It's going to have to be from violence. So the violent intensity goes up. And, we're going to be hitting 9 billion people within the next decade, easily within the next decade, right? And, you know, that's why I put 2032 down there, is because 10 years from now is 2032. And we cannot support that many people. You know, I think probably things are going to start crashing before then, you know, but at the very least, it's going to happen then. You know, we're going to get a large die-off. And a lot of people don't realize that in other parts of the world, it's already happening. You know, you have large parts of Africa where warlords are taking over and taking the food supply from large chunks of different countries there in Africa, and literally millions of people are dying from starvation every single freaking week. Literally millions. And, you know, same thing with large parts of like India. You know, India is getting to be a huge country. It's at over 1 billion people in population right now. China's at over 1.5 billion. You know, they've already had large amounts of issues in China. Some of the islands on the Philippines have, you know, they've reduced the shipping to those islands, but those are of less concern because those islands are pretty fertile. And so the local population can sustain themselves for the simple fact that A, they have fertile soil, and B, they still have the knowledge and skills to be able to plant and produce. And they're not lazy like a lot of people in first world countries are. Mexico, massive die-offs. Venezuela, everybody who's been following Venezuela for the past 5 years, like, has seen the shit show that has become, you know, but that was more due to it becoming a socialist nation and being taken over, you know, through a military coup. And, you know, again, I'm going to reiterate to everybody, don't think that what happens over there in those foreign countries is not going to happen here. That's a precursor to what's going to happen here. Here in America, we have safety systems in place to make us last a little bit longer, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen here. You are going to get some violence, you know, and it's going to start increasing. Whenever it does, you know, it's only going to get worse. You know, you're already seeing the shit show in California, and if you are not aware of that, look it up. There's people just walking in the stores, grabbing a bunch of shit and walking straight out. You know, there's people getting shot and stabbed more and more every single day. And, you know, it's starting to get to the point where people are getting carjacked going down the highway. You know, literally you'll have a car full of people watching other people go buy groceries, and it's a large amount of it is groceries, which tells you it's food motivated, not, oh, this guy's got some new Air Jordans, so I'm going to freaking hit him in the head with the bat and take his shoes. No, it's not about those status symbols. It's literally about feeding their family. And so, you know, these people, they'll see somebody who loads up their van, their vehicle, whatever it is, with a lot of food and stuff like that, and then follow them, cut them off, and take their shit, or follow them all the way back to their home. And then, you know, as they open up their back of their van or their car to take groceries in, they just roll right up, hold them at gunpoint, and jack them. And, you know, some people have died from that, you know, and sometimes, you know, you know, if you're buying a large amount of food, 9 times out of 10, you got kids. A lot of those times, those kids are involved in those incidences. So it's already getting bad. You're not going to see it on the mainstream news. You have to look it up. Look at friends and family that you know in some of these areas. You know, ask them what's going on. Ask them to post videos. Ask them to post local news, because the local news may show some things that won't hit national news because it's not sensational enough. So, and make sure you spread it. Make sure you let people around know, like, hey, things are starting to get bad, you know. And I don't want you to do it out of fear mongering, like a lot of people are doing, a lot of these so-called prepper groups are doing. I want you to do it to say, this is the problems we're facing. Here is a potential solution to the problem. Start taking these steps now. So you're getting ready. And whenever you're prepared for a problem, if you do it right, it reduces your fear down. So then you're acting out of sense of action and confidence instead of fear and panic. Because the fear and panic is only going to get you hurt, and it's only going to get you killed. And hopefully it doesn't get your family killed, but if you don't start getting things ready, it's going to be harder and harder to get things ready as time progresses. Everybody has seen the price of everything has gone up. There's things that I used to routinely buy 5 years ago for maybe 30 or 40 bucks. They're now 150 to 200 bucks. So the price of everything's skyrocketing. So instead of me having one main item and then a backup stashed somewhere else in a safe location, I might be able to afford one. So if you're not ready, I'm going to urge you even more nowadays to get ready. Because the longer it takes for things to start to kick off, the more violent it's going to have to be in order for everything to equal out. And, they're saying that worldwide, with a lot of the new data, we may be able to sustain fully a population of around 2 billion. Right now we're at 8 billion almost. We're just shy of 8 billion. That's why I have the 5 billion mark as the mark of die-off, right? Because if everything goes correctly and we can fully provide for 2 billion, nearly 6 billion people are going to have to die in order for things to balance out, in order for nature to hit that equilibrium, which is a very sad reality, because you don't get to pick who's in the 5 billion. You don't get to say, okay, this guy's a serial killer, so let him be part of it. This guy's a child molester, let him be part of it. This guy is a drug smuggler, let him be part of that. No. The sad reality is most of those people at 5 billion, 6 billion that got to freaking go is going to be normal, everyday people who just aren't prepared. And part of that preparation is not only planning, getting your supplies together, but learning how to protect yourself. It's also about reaching out and building your connections, building your community, so you come together as a bigger, more powerful team than you would be by yourself. So I'm going to reiterate and re-urge, make sure you get your shit ready. Because even this slope is going to be bad, And this number is only going to be higher if we do reach 9 billion people by 2032. Because right now, if we can only feed 2, then that means that 5 is going to become a 7. Which just means it's going to have to be more violent for everything to equal out. And I trust in nature, because over the past several billion years, it's showed that it likes a balance. It likes that fine medium ground. And if it has to wipe out a species, or at least decimate a species, it does. Natural selection at work. So don't get caught up in the intensity. Don't make sure you're doing everything you can not to be part of that.